This is the first time that I've remembered to record. So yay me. Okay, how are you all feeling? Okay, not tired?
Let's just say we're going to be very strong at the end of this.
Yeah. We focus mainly on strength. So yeah, but you've got to go slow because you do instead of an intensive course where you're working every day, but you're working in less amounts every day, it's actually easier to avoid injury and things like that. So when you're doing these weekends, it's massively intense. You can feel it already, right? This is only your second day. So, you know, you have we try to mix it up. The first couple of weekends are quite asana pose intense, okay? Because we've got to get you through all these poses so that you can work on them afterwards. But then it slows down a little bit in terms of us drilling you every single weekend. So for this time, go slow. Don't push yourself because you'll learn a little bit when you're going to do the anatomy later. It takes time to build the strength, okay? And we don't want you to get injured. All right, so if anybody does get any niggles or anything, then you just send me a message, okay? And then I'll try and advise as best as I can, but just if you've got any concerns, well, really about anything, but physically, then just send me a message, okay? All right, so this session, I want to go fairly quickly because I want to move you on to the next session. So what I want to do is I'm going to spend, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes talking about the course as an overview so that you get a vague idea of where we're coming from on the course. So you can kind of start to put things together a bit. So a little bit of admin-y stuff, course overview, that kind of thing. And then I want to talk to you about the yoga anatomy, where that's coming from, and how you're going to approach it bit by bit. Okay, all right. So this course, our Wellness Connection, is what we call it's a peak pose vinyasa yoga school. Okay, so now I'm presuming all of you know what vinyasa yoga is. Most of you come from vinyasa yoga or have done it. Right? Very rarely do people come. Has anybody not done vinyasa yoga? No, you're all good. Okay. So vinyasa yoga, we know, is flow yoga, right? It's pose, flow, pose, flow. You basically don't stop moving, okay? But generally on the whole, vinyasa yoga, and please tell me if this is not your experience, because sometimes it isn't. We've all got different histories. Generally, when you go to vinyasa yoga, you are not really trying to achieve anything in terms of the flow. You're moving forwards and backwards along the mat. You generally do the same poses again and again and again in a little bit of a different format. So you'll do all your warriors and your standing poses, your triangles, that kind of thing. Then you might do a couple of twists, do a lot of forward bending, lots and lots of forward bends, downward dogs, and then maybe an arm balance is offered, perhaps. You might come into, for example, a squat, like, I'm not sure if some of you understand Sanskrit or not. You don't have to know it on this course, but you come into a malasana squat, and then people might say to you, okay, either stay here, or for those of you that you can take crow arm balance. So it's normally offered up like that, right? And then sometimes you may do a little bit of a back bend, maybe a little bridge. And then sometimes for those of you who want to take full wheel, take full wheel. And then again, maybe an inversion like shoulder stand, okay? Generally, that's the overall. You'll see as we go along, we do a lot of lectures around vinyasa yoga. There's commonly 28 poses that are taught, okay? Very basic poses, things like half moon, those kind of things. And anything more complex is given as an offering. It's like, if you can do it, off you go if you can't just stay wherever you are and breathe, right? We don't do that, okay? So what we believe in is that if you want to call yourself a yoga teacher, you should be teaching yoga, okay? Not offering yoga, going, you can do it if you want, but if you can't, just carry on not being able to. We want you to be able to teach it, right? We want you to be able to teach every pose, basically. And so that's what we call a peak pose. So a peak pose can be a complex pose, like a funky arm balance, like flying pigeon. Don't worry if you don't know these yet, we'll go through them. Or for a more beginner class, it can be something like a twisted half moon. You know, it depends. So what we're trying to do is get you to understand how, and it's tricky, how to put a flow together that teaches the elements of the peak pose. Now, this is all going to sound like, well, what is she talking about? But I promise you, by the end of the course, you will totally get it, okay? We've done this so many times, you will get it. So what we want to do, essentially, is for you to understand, okay, I would like to teach my people twisted Bakasana, so Parshva Bakasana, so twisted crow, okay? So it's crow to slightly complex. I know some of you haven't done it already, but what we want you to be able to do is look at the pose and go, what is needed in that pose? How do people, myself included, how do we get to do that pose? What's in that pose? What's happening, okay? Look at the pose and go, okay, these are the requirements that you need to be able to do these poses, okay? And this is how I can put a flow together to meet those requirements. So don't worry about it too much, because I'm going to take you through it bit by bit, but that's what we teach at Wellness Connection. We teach peak pose vinyasa yoga. So if you were to go to a peak pose vinyasa yoga class, you would be doing rolling around the mat the way you do in a normal vinyasa class, except there would be a purpose to it. Okay, that's the difference. So if you were brand newbie to yoga, you wouldn't even know that there was a difference between a normal, commonly offered vinyasa class and a peak pose vinyasa class, okay? Because the teacher's not necessarily saying this is a peak pose vinyasa class. We're just moving you around the place, but we choose the movements for a purpose, okay? So that is the core of this course. Now that is applicable to you in your own practices as well. So I'm sure, and I will ask you later in the course, a load of you are going to go, I want to do that. I want to do that inversion, or I want to do that wheel, or I want to do that back bend, or I want to do that arm balance, and you haven't got a clue how to do it because no one's ever taught you, right? So what we're going to teach you to do is go, how do I do it? How do I look at the pose and go, okay, let's take handstand. What is required in handstand? What, just for the pose itself? Then to look at you as an individual and go, okay, so the pose requires a certain amount of strength, a certain amount of flexibility, and a certain amount of skill, the way that you do a pose. And you will then be able to go, okay, maybe I'm not that flexible. Maybe I can't touch my toes. So that's going to make it a little bit different for me. Maybe my upper arm strength isn't that strong yet. So what can I do to build it up? And then what do I need skill-wise to be able to do the pose? So you, by the end of this course, you will be able to choose any pose that you want to, pretty much, okay? And be able to break it down for yourself, for your practice, and also for the guys that want to go out and teach, okay? So that's the general overview of the course. Now, within the course itself, there are 3 main criteria, okay, that we need you to do to pass, right? In amidst those criteria, there's bits of homework that you have to do so we can assess you, all right? So the first thing is, and you've been doing it already, pose demonstration, okay? This is all in your course overview. Pose demonstration. We need you to be able to demonstrate a certain amount of poses effectively for your body. So when I say demonstrating a pose effectively, I don't mean we expect you to be able to touch your toes or do an arm balance. What we need you to do is to be able to demonstrate according to your body, your flexibility, that it looks okay. All right? So, some of you are going to be massively flexible in your hamstrings and be able to fold forward and put your chest on your thighs. Others aren't even going to be able to touch their toes properly, right? We're going to teach you how to demonstrate the pose effectively for your body so it doesn't look horrible, so you can actually get a message across to your students. Laura is the pose demo girl, right? She's your teacher for that. So she's going to take you through a whole list of poses that are in your, I beg your pardon, your course overview. Those are the poses that you have to be able to demonstrate effectively. Okay, it's in your course overview, and she will go through them with you, and she will go, okay, Sarah, you haven't got the longest hamstrings. I want you to demonstrate it like this. Lauren, you've got long hamstrings. I want you to maybe drop your head a little bit more, and she will guide you through for you. Okay, so it's just so that you can go out there and be able to show your people this is the way you can do a pose. For those that can actually touch their toes a little bit more, you can go further than that. So Laura has you as a group with your pose demos now. Like you did some today and yesterday, you did a load of standing poses. And then I'm not sure of the exact dates off the top of my head, but in a couple of weeks' time, Laura then does pose reviews with you. That's when you get broken down into little groups of 4 or 5 people, okay? And then she can really look at you closely, because obviously in a studio, it's so much easier for us. We can see you right there and then, but we break you down into little groups, and then you get a slot, an hour's slot, and Nora will say, okay, we're going to do a pose review of all the poses we've covered up to date, right? And then you'll have been practicing them, or under her guidance, she'll say, you need to work a little bit harder on your downward dog or change this. And then in the pose review, she'll be able to look at you closely and then go, okay, Marlene, you need to work a little bit more on this. Go away and send me some WhatsApp videos of it. So that happens steadily through the course. Okay, so that's the one section. Okay, the second section is more my section now, which is yoga anatomy. Okay, now this is much more, the only reason you guys are learning yoga anatomy has got nothing to do with injury. Okay, most people come onto courses and they think, oh, I'm learning about anatomy so I can prevent injury. You can't, unless you've got a degree in some kind of physiotherapy or thing. You can't. You can do it in different ways. The yoga anatomy that you're going to learn on this course is directly to do with how you break down a pose, how you understand bodies for yoga poses, and how you put a sequence together. Okay, so this is one area. It's the hardest area. You have to break down 3 poses. This is all in your course overview, and it's all going to sound like, oh, right now, but we take you through it bit by bit, okay? You're going to choose 3 poses for yourself that you can't do and that you want to do. And then you're going to learn how to break down the pose, look at your body, and to work on the pose progressively. Okay, so that's, I know you're like, oh, what is she talking about? Don't worry. When I talk to you again about it, when we go through poses, you will understand. So don't worry. You also have to sequence a peak pose sequenced vinyasa class. So that means you're going to put together a 60-minute class that is a peak pose class. And that's when the anatomy comes into it. Okay, so that's the other area. The third area is teaching. Taryn James, who's our teacher, okay, she's Yoga South Africa, she's the one behind all of that. She will come in, she'll talk to you all about teaching, but fundamentally what happens is, again, it's in your course overview. I have to email you your allocation, which I'll do next week because you don't need it right now. you will be allocated a sequence to teach, okay? That sequence is one of the sequences that Laura is teaching you, okay? And then you will go away, you will memorize it. We'll talk about it a little bit more. You will video yourself because we can't see you live, and you will send that to Taryn. And Taryn will go, okay, Anna, I think you need to do a little bit more work on this, and off you'll go again. And then you will submit a second and maybe third practical, depending on how you are, okay? So the teaching is just really about memorizing and standing there and executing the class. So those are the three main areas: pose demonstration, yoga anatomy sequencing, okay, and teaching. Those are the things that we need you to pass, so where your concentration must go. The rest of the course, you're going to do so many different things. You're going to do yin, you're going to do hot 26, you're going to do modern vinyasa, kids yoga, pregnancy yoga, and all of these are just to show you the world of yoga out there, which is a huge world, right? It's got you can teach so many different people, so many different styles, all of those things, but that is for your interest, okay? So that's the general course criteria. Now, when we move to what you need to do behind the scenes, first of all, I say the mandatory sessions, the ones you have to attend, are your allocated pose review slot, okay? Those can't be, you can't make them up, basically. So when it comes close to those days, if for some reason, you'll see the slots are broken down into separate sections. If for some reason you can't make the morning slot, you will just let Laura know, and then Laura will put you in the afternoon slot. Okay, it's an hour's slot. That's all an hour, and ish. It depends.
Part of it. I don't know why I'm fancy now.
I can hear someone talking. And not that I mind you talking, it's just I can't talk over you. Yeah, just mute yourself if you're chatting. Right. So those are the mandatory sessions. Okay. I would strongly advise the yoga sequencing sessions with me, because they are quite complex. You're going to do a lot of work behind the scenes and then come to me to get talked through it a little bit more, only because it's really beneficial. Once you choose a pose to sequence, you'll probably get a lot of information from me just in the chat. So it'll be helpful for you. But all of the sessions you can make up. They all get put on YouTube, so you can make up the sessions. Not a problem at all, but I would strongly suggest try as much as you can to attend them, because it'll help you, because we kind of know what we're doing in this. All right. Okay, any questions on that so far? Sarah?
Just one question, sorry.
Sure.
When you do the teaching section, do you just teach it as if we're teaching the screen, or do we actually teach somebody and use them as a the body?
Entirely up to you. Everybody's in a different situation, so it's entirely up to you. If you've got our last course, we had people teaching the most, like 5-year-old children and a dog, and because we were in quite serious lockdown. In our first 200 hour this year, when we were for those of you not in South Africa, when we were in lockdown 5, we had people on the course that were in flats with no one around. So they kind of taught a wall. It is what it is. So you will teach whomever you kind of fancy teaching. If you want to teach somebody, it's sometimes easier, but it's up to you. It'll be, you can teach a whole group, you can teach one person. It's all good.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, pleasure. All right. Okay, so moving on. All right. So the work that you have to do behind the scenes, in your course overview, before I go to the schedule, in your course overview, there are dates, okay, of when you have to submit different stuff, okay? They're all in there. They're also all in your schedule, but your schedule is quite a complex thing, as I'm sure you've looked at and gone, oh, what is this? Okay. it's much more complex than when we do it live, because you've got to do so much work behind the scenes, right? So on your schedule, there are 3 columns, right? There's a reading column, there is a video column, and there is a homework column, right? So for each day, right next to the day, it'll say, like your ones today, read the backbend class, read standing poses, page, read those because it'll be helpful for you, okay? Then next to that, under videos, it'll say, watch this video, watch that video, okay? Not on every day, depends whether it's relevant or not. Those videos are all on the website. And I'm presuming you've all tried to log in and you've got it and you're all good with it. So let me know if there's any glitches there. Then the homework column, it will literally say when you have to submit what. And you don't have to, you have to submit something to me next week, but it'll say literally when. So just look at that column. If you got any questions, you just ask me, okay? So it will say, because you guys are only with us for the weekend, we will have little bits next to the weekend start in the homework, but not a lot. A lot of your homework instruction is going to be during the week. It'll say things like, practice your poses, practice all 3 classes. It'll say stuff like that. Then it'll say things like, submit anatomy work to Catherine on the 23rd of September. Okay, so it'll give you instructions. So just read through those. And again, if you've got any questions, and right at the beginning of the course, it's like, oh, for everyone, pretty much, okay? Just ask us, okay? But all of that stuff is in your schedule, okay? Okay, all right. Let's say, so everything you can catch up, but really, really, really make sure you do catch up, okay? That's the most important thing. Personally, and I probably shouldn't say this, I don't care if you've got no interest in pregnancy yoga and you miss it and you don't catch it up, it's fine. You know, I can't make you prove that you've done it, right? But it's those main areas that you really need to concentrate on. So the teaching, the sequencing, the yoga anatomy, pose analysis, and Laura stuff, okay? The classes and pose demos, those you have to be on top of. And as the course moves towards the end of the course, say 3 to 2 weeks before the end of the course, it gets quite intense in what you have to submit, right? So try to keep up to date. The thing that I want to say, guys, is try really hard not to rush ahead, okay? And go, oh, I don't understand the peak pose sequencing, like, because you're not going to, all right? Most of you, until we've done the work, all right? It's the same thing. They'll be on your schedule to say, choose a peak pose for peak pose sequencing and submit to Catherine. You can't choose that yet because you haven't gone through all the peak poses, okay? So the course is really structured in a way that we give you the information, then we ask you to do all the bits and pieces afterwards. So try not to go mad and go ahead, because I promise you'll get really, really confused about stuff. Okay, any questions around that? Because that's generally the course overview, so you know where you're coming from. Anybody got any questions? No, you're all good? Okay, this will not last, the lack of questioning, I promise you. But please don't feel bad, or don't feel like you, oh, you know, I'm stupid, I don't know what I'm talking about. Just go for it, okay? Ask questions. All right, so this, what's the time? Okay, cool. All right, this afternoon, 4 to 6 o'clock is on your own time, okay? We haven't done it like this before. I lied. We did it with the 300 hours, the advanced yogis, the people that have already done their 200 hours. This is the system that we use. So normally what happens is I come on and tire you to death by talking at you with yoga anatomy. But because it's so intense, with you guys being, you know, it's all weekend work. We've decided to do it the way that we did it with the 300-hour and see how it works, okay? So whether you do it from 4 to 6 today, it's up to you, right? But from 4 to 6 today, you are meant to go and watch yoga anatomy videos. They listed on your schedule. They're on the website. It's me talking through them all, but at least then you can sort of put your pajamas on and, you know, have tea and wander around and pick up a kid and pat a dog and things like that, okay? So today and tomorrow, you're going to go through those videos, and I will confirm tomorrow's with you tomorrow morning. Just stick with today's for the minute, all right? So you're going to go and watch those videos. Now, when you watch those videos, there's a piece of work, or there's two, but for today, called Anatomy Work 1. It's in your course overview, right? There are questions in that that you need to answer and email me on the 23rd of, where are we, September, okay? Why they are, it's not a pass and fail thing, right? It's because it's to guide you through the videos, and there's a little bit of manual reading as well. It's to guide you through as to what you need to know, all right? So it'll say that, I think the first question is joint movements, and our joint movements are all in your manual, but they're also in the videos. It'll ask you questions like, what is the shoulder doing? Name a pose with the shoulders up like this, and you will need to know what the name of this is. It's all in the videos. All of the answers are in the videos, okay? Really, really explained in the videos. So you're going to look at that and then answer it. Look at the video and answer it. As you go through it, it's going to make it much easier. I'm not expecting you to memorize it all, right? There are certain key things that I need you to know about anatomy for the sequencing and for your pose breakdown. They are very, I say that they're very basic. Has anybody got any anatomy in their background? Ah, Sakile. Oh, Marlene. Sakile, what have you got in your background?
I studied personal training and Pilates, so lots of anatomy.
Hey, excellent. You're going to be the person that fights with me the most then. Wait and see. It's always the personal trainers. They shout. It's cool. I'm really used to it. It's good. Marlene, where did you do your training? I mean, what did you do, your anatomy background?
So exercise science and Pilates.
Excellent. So there you go. So they're not going to have a problem, or they're going to have a problem with me and what I say. So it'll be very interesting to hear. Dasha, I've just seen that your blue hand is up. Do you have a question? Can't hear you. Sorry about that. I'm very bad at blue hand.
Yes, I do have a question.
Oh.
In that manual that we have, the pages that describe the shoulders, names, and muscles, they very big.
So you're breaking up really badly?
So you can't make
Dasha, I can't hear you. You break
really make out what it says. Would it be possible to?
Okay. Okay, Dasha?
Can you hear me?
No, you're breaking up really badly. So can I suggest, and I'll check it just now, can I suggest you type it in the chat?
Yes.
And then you broke up. I don't know if everybody else experienced that. I can't hear, you break up a lot. So type it in the chat and then wave like this to me, and then I will look at it and answer it in the chat. Yeah, okay, all right. Okay, so I'm not expecting you to have a background in exercise science to do this, because you are yoga teachers, right? You're not meant to understand things on these levels. What I need you to understand is guided by what your anatomy work questions, all right? I need you to understand. There's no point me even telling you yet what I need you to understand. until you've watched the videos and until you have gone through that anatomy work, okay? What I do need you to kind of understand is that it is everything I'm asking you to know is linked, okay? So I'll try and give you an example. All right, so if we're looking at a pose, does everybody know what firefly looks like? Bakasana. Do you all know what that pose looks like? Okay, it's an arm balance with straight arms with your legs straight out. Has everybody seen a picture of that? Okay, I demonstrated, except I'm right wedged against my cupboard at the moment. Okay, so it's literally your arms are, so if you think of a wide-legged forward fold, okay, it looks like that, except you're on your arms and your legs are sticking out. All right, okay, so in this course, we want you to be able to work towards that pose. We would like you to be able to teach that pose as well. So what we then do is we look at that pose and we go, okay, what is needed flexibility-wise? Okay, can anybody guess what area of the body needs to be flexible to be able to do that pose?
The hamstrings.
Hamstrings, okay? Because it looks like a wide-legged forward fold. Let's keep it really basic. So if you've got lovely, long, flexy hamstrings, sorry, I shouldn't use the word long, lovely, flexy hamstrings, then that pose is going to be easier for you than somebody who doesn't, okay? Really basic stuff, okay? Then, what do you think needs to be strong for the pose?
Quadriceps.
Your arms.
Your arm, who said that? Oh, there you go, Carmel. Yes, your arms. Okay, I'm keeping it really basic now. You know, I'm not interested in the individual muscles. I'm not a big individual muscle person because lots of muscles are used there, but your arms need to be strong. Someone said quadriceps as well. Quads, the front of your thighs. Yes, definitely, but it depends, okay, on how you do the pose. But simply speaking, you need the longer flexi hamstring people, strength for your arms. That's what you need for the pose, okay? So what you're going to be guided through when you do the yoga anatomy is areas in yoga that we require a lot of flexibility. And we all know hamstrings, big one, right? In yoga, like hamstrings, lots and lots of stuff. So there are certain areas of your body that require lots of flexibility. And what we do is, so for instance, if you chose Firefly as a pose that you wanted to work on and do pose analysis, you could then say, ooh, Firefly requires lots of hamstring flexibility. Look at me, I can't fold forward in a wide leg forward fold. Okay, this is part of your anatomy work. I'm really high up, I can't touch my toes. So then you'll start to understand, hang on a sec, well, that's going to make it much harder for me. What can I do? How can I modify this particular pose? Then we look at the strength of you. This is very basically done now. We look at the strength and you go, okay, I've never done Firefly before. What are the arms doing in Firefly? What are your arms doing in Firefly? They're fundamentally straight. So what would be another pose that we could maybe test strength in? That's similar. Not Firefly, but something similar with straight arms.
Handstand.
you could test it. I think that's brilliant. You could test it, Raquel, with the handstand, but maybe not. So what's a basic pose that you do in
Planking.
planking? You see, there you go. So exactly. So in that simple little thing, and of course it's a little bit more complicated than that, but in that simple analogy, you can go away and go, gee, I can't fold forward enough. My hamstrings aren't really long enough. Oh, you know what? I'm terrible at holding a plank. I shake when I'm holding a plank. Maybe I need to build up a little bit of strength towards arm strength, towards plank. Okay, so we look at strength, we look at flexibility, and we look at where you need those things. and it changes depending on the pose, okay? So everything changes. Then we look at it, it's not anatomy, but you will start to learn about it. We look at the skill aspects of the pose. So it's, if you're looking at something like Firefly, it's about, and you're going to learn, you're all going to be able to say this off the top of your head by the end of the course. All arm balances require a shelf, okay? You don't need to know this right now, but I promise you by the end of the course, you'll be calling these things out. They require, all arm balances are putting your legs and your body onto your arms, okay? So except for handstand, which is just like dead straight. Crow, you're putting your shins and your knees on your upper arms, okay? So we have to create the shelf. If we don't create the shelf, you're not going to be able to do the pose. All arm balances are like a seesaw, okay? So what they are is, in order for you, I'm presuming all of you've kind of tried crow or seen it in a class. If you haven't, send me a message and I'll send you a little video of it. But when you come into crow, right, your feet are on the ground. This is your feet, okay? Your feet are on the ground. So in order for you to get into a crow, you need to lean forward, okay? Like a seesaw. And then your feet come up, okay? So you need a shelf. You need to lean forward enough so that your feet float. Then we also bring in, it's the same thing with all inversions, what we call drishti, focus point. So if you want to do a handstand, if you don't look, you're going to have a hard time balancing. And how we show you this is by literally putting you in tree pose, which I'd love for you all to do. Go and put yourself in tree pose, look, and then close your eyes. You're going to fall over, probably. Or it's going to take some, you're going to do this and wobble about. So we teach you the skills around the pose. What? Because it's not enough to go, okay, Melissa, you need to build up more arm strength for Firefly. Your hamstrings are fine, but you need more arm strength. You know, even if you've got both of those criteria, it does not mean that you're going to be able to do the pose, because you've got to be taught the pose, the skill, the action of the pose itself. So that is an overview of what we're looking at. So when you go into the anatomy, often for people it can be really, really challenging, but we're trying to keep it just to yoga poses. So I don't care about names of bones. I want you to identify a few muscles, but there's a picture, you can do this. I'm going to look at your chat now, Dasha, okay? Identify them vaguely so that I know you know what a bicep is and a tricep, but I'm not too bothered by it, right? Movement is much more, it uses lots of different muscles, okay? So what I'm interested in is you understanding a little bit about strength, about flexibility, how we can work those in a class. So a classic thing would be, within a class, a 60-minute class, if we choose a pose like Firefly as our peak pose, we can definitely bring in lots of flexibility work before, hamstring flexibility work before our peak pose, because that'd be good, right? That'd be warming you up. Because we know, and you'll learn it when you go into the stretching videos, we know that we can warm up your muscles so that they feel more flexible and the pose might become more accessible to you. What we do know, and you guys will all know this, is we can't build up strength within a class, right? I can't say, okay, I'm just going to make you do plank, 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 then handstand, and you'll be stronger at the end of the class. That doesn't work like that. We all know that, right? But what we do know is that we can build up strength over time so that you can look at poses and you can go, okay, and Laura's going to get you on these as well. Okay, you know what? I need to build up more upper body strength, which almost 100%, I know, let me say 99% of women who come onto our teacher training courses do not have upper body strength. Despite doing yoga for years, they don't have the strength, because most vinyasa classes don't build strength, okay? They just don't. The way that they taught, they're too fast, they're collapsing, they don't hold, etc. So we know we can build up strength over time. So the anatomy is very much around those two subjects. within poses, all right? Little bit of deeper anatomy in there. I'm not too bothered about you knowing, but you'll be guided by the anatomy work. And now while we're on the subject, because I think it was about muscles, I'm going to look at the chat. The pictures that describe joints and muscles are very pixelated in the manual. I can't make out the names. Would it be possible to get it in a higher resolution if we know the name? Yes, it will. I sent it as an email, so I can send it to you by WeTransfer. It's huge. So if you want me to send it by WeTransfer, send me a message, okay? That's the big, big, big document, right? So Dasha, I'll send that to you. Anybody else who wants it by WeTransfer, send me a message, okay? Does everybody understand that? Yeah, okay, all right. Okay, so what's gonna happen over this weekend is you're gonna go and have your anatomy work 1, go through the videos that I've said to go through. So there's videos today, general yoga anatomy, there is stretching, and there is strength. You've also got hours allocated to that tomorrow, okay? You're gonna go away, it's me, blah, 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 talking at you, okay? And those were put together for, so this is what I want you to know. Be guided by the work, because those slides that you're about to watch were put together for the 300 hours. To be honest, most of them didn't know, they weren't trained with us, so they didn't know anything about anatomy anyway. Some of the stuff is quite complex. You are not expected to know it, all right? Be guided by the anatomy work 1. So the stretching video in particular has complicated stuff. Just glaze over, unless you're an anatomy geek or love biomechanics, go for it. But otherwise, you just glaze over, all right? What I want you to know is what happens when you stretch, okay? How we stretch, those kind of things. But it's all in your anatomy work. Then what's going to happen is I will come back to you guys tomorrow afternoon, I think, at 5 o'clock. I can't remember the times, about 5 o'clock. And then we have what's called a live chat. So that is when you come and you say, I haven't got a clue what you're talking about. Explain it to me. I don't understand. Okay? So you ask me questions. I prompt things out of you. I'm going to expect you all to know joint movements. Okay? That's the first thing. So only specific joint movements guided by your anatomy work. So I'm going to make you close your eyes so you can't copy each other. And then I'm going to say, show me shoulder flexion. And you're going to do the movement. Okay? So I want you to know those joint movements, but pretty much that is going to be it. And then the rest of it is just for you to ask questions. Okay? So please go through the work, because if you go through the work, you'll understand everything. And then if you've got questions about the work as you're going through it, send me a message and I will answer you. Okay, so Julie.
Oh, I just wanted to ask then, I'm looking at the anatomy work 1 in the overview, and number 1 says understand joint movements, shoulder, wrist, hip, spine. Is that the practical side that you're talking about? So the rest is written, but this is...
The rest,
okay.
Yes. There is quite a lot of, there's a couple of things in there that are understanding, so you can't really write it down. So when you watch the videos, you'll see there's a section on what the shoulder does, okay? And what it's called, and the different ranges of movement, that kind of thing. And you watch that and kind of go, okay, this is shoulder flexion. Now, the reason you need to know that relates straight back to flexibility. Okay, so it's very complicated first, but what in yoga, and it's a question in the anatomy work 1, is that there are certain areas that we really require a lot of flexibility. In terms of the shoulder, we require this, arms up overhead, right? And that is for things like wheel, Urdhva Dhanurasana, that wheel, full back bend. The more shoulder, this is shoulder flexion, okay, that's the most confusing one for you guys. The more, if you're not able, it's the same in handstand, but it's not so much of a problem. If I'm only able to take my arm up here, okay, that makes wheel incredibly hard. If you look at, so my shoulder flexion is about there. If you look at Laura's, it's about there, okay? So her wheel is much more narrow and flexible than my wheel. The more flexible your shoulders are in shoulder flexion in wheel, the easier it is. In terms of peak pose sequencing, if wheel is our peak pose, and don't worry, all of this is going, oh, because we will get there. If wheel is our peak pose, we would want to be doing some shoulder flexion stretch, like shoulder stretches, let's use that word, shoulder mobility work in order to get a little bit of warming up going in shoulder flexion. So everything relates back to the yoga. But for starters, you just need to know what the important areas are, okay? And you will, and I'll say it in the video, and it will say, in yoga, shoulders, it's this, okay? In yoga, hips, our hip has a joint, it's forward folding. Don't worry if it doesn't make sense. We need flexible hamstrings, that's hip flexion, okay? We do a lot of cross-legged poses in yoga. Things like flying pigeon, which is an arm balance, lotus, all of those things, they require what we call external rotation. It's all in the videos and it might not sink in, but you'll be able to write it down, okay? It'll get there, I promise you, okay? So there's just certain areas in yoga of which hamstrings, our inner thighs, our externally rotated hips, shoulder flexion, we require a lot of mobility. If we bend, we're doing back bends, the more mobile our spine is, which we can't really do anything about, but you'll learn it from the video, the more mobile our spine is, the more flexible, the easier our back bend, okay? So we're just looking at those areas. So don't feel overwhelmed. It's not a test. Some of you will find it very easy. Others, it will be like, oh, it's a process, okay? It's a process. I'm here to help you through the process. You will get it. I promise you, everybody does at the end of it. Really, really, every single person does, and you will understand it. But I get that for some of you, it's just like, whoa, it's too much, right? So go slow. Okay. Does anybody have any other questions? Because I want to let you go so you can go and listen to me moan more on the videos. No questions. Okay. So send me messages if you don't understand the anatomy work or anything like that. But please bear in mind, it is not a test. If you don't do it, oh, that's the one thing I just wanted to say. Sorry, Sarah, I'll be with you. In terms of passing or failing this course, right? I've told you the three main areas and a submission of homework that you need to do. The only time we ever fail anybody is if they don't do the work. Okay, so it's like, you know, I don't know why people do it, but they come on the course and then they just won't submit work, like, and then they won't submit it again. Then we go, okay, if you don't, it's a problem, etc., etc. And that is the only time that we go, no. I've never met anybody that doesn't get it at the end of the day. It's even if we have to extend the course a little bit, people get it. As long as you put the work in, it will be fine, okay? So I'm expecting a certain standard, but I'm not expecting you to be anatomists at all at the end of it. I'm not expecting you to know the Sanskrit words for the poses, all right? You might want to, and yeah, if you do, if you don't, it doesn't matter. No one teaches them anyway, right? So just a certain standard, just submission of work, and things like the anatomy work, it's a process. The peak pose sequencing, it's a process. I guide you through. You submit a little bit, I go, and then you submit again, and then you submit again, all right? Same thing with the teaching practicals and the pose review. You do about, I don't even know, 6, 8 pose reviews. So you're building as you go along. So there's no, like if you're an absolute, like, don't practice at all by the last pose review, Laura's going to have given you so much hard time before you get there, you'll know. And she'll be getting you to submit individual work. So it's a process. So think of it like that. Try not to get overwhelmed in the beginning of it. I get that people do, but it's our job is to help you through the process. Okay, Dasha, do you have another question?
I always forget to unmute, sorry. Is it Is it the general anatomy video that we need to watch on the website?
If you go to your schedule, it will tell you exactly the
Oh,
numbers. There are
Okay.
lots of videos of different things. So it will tell you the numbers. So say general yoga anatomy 1 to 3, strength 1 to 2. I can't remember the numbers off my head. It'll tell you exactly, because some of them have got more videos, but they're all labeled. So you'll go in, it'll say general anatomy 1, general anatomy 2. And then some of them, I think with the stretching or the anatomy stuff, there aren't extra ones as far as I remember. I think there might be one extra one, but if you look at that schedule, it'll tell you exactly what you need to watch so that you don't kind of overwatch. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Cool. All right, guys. Any other questions, or can I release you?
You can
Okay. No
Catherine,
questions.
sorry, I'm just looking at the videos in the general anatomy folder, and there's 2 of them, yet our schedule says watch videos 1 to 3.
Okay, so just thinking, then I must have made, do you know what I did? I think I combined the videos. My mistake, so it's
Okay.
1 to 2 then, yeah. I think I combined them. Sorry, there's so many videos, I can't remember exactly which one. I'll check it now, but I think I put them, I cut and spliced them and then put them together. I changed my mind on how they were done. I do that.
Okay, perfect.
I will go and check though to be doubly sure. Dasha, another question?
No. Sorry, I forgot to put my hand down.
Absolutely fine. Anyone else? No. Oh, Sarah, sorry, I forgot about you.
No, it's fine. Just the anatomy work 1, the under number 2, you're assessing yourself. That doesn't need to be submitted as such in writing. That's just your assessing yourself. Is that right?
Write it down. So you're assessing yourself, but I want you to write it down so I know that you've assessed yourself. Okay.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just saying kind of roughly measure yourself in a forward bend. I'm not looking for, I mean, the exercise scientist Marlene can measure if she wants, but I'm looking for rough measurement. It's like can I fold you'll see in the videos, I'll show you what it looks like when somebody's able to fold to a certain range. And it's more for you to assess, hey, how flexible are my hamstrings? So it's not an exact answer. It's more just you looking at you. Yeah.
Candice is sitting in a beautiful place.
Sorry?
I'm just saying Candice is sitting in a beautiful place in Cape Town.
Yeah, I'm in Camps Bay now at my brother's house. We're having a family braai, and here I am.
Oh, are you? And you're having to work.
Yeah, it is a beautiful house though. Like there's Table Mountain.
Wow, stunning.
Love.
And there's the sea view over there.
Oh, stunning.
There you go. The rest of us are in cupboards.
I will be when I get home, so don't worry.
Yeah, I've got a very nice view there, but I'm locked into this like white cupboard area at the back. Have been since lockdown 5. It's like crazy time. All right, guys, send a message if you don't understand things. If it's a general thing, you can put it on the group if you wish. If you want to not do that and send it to me privately, that's also good. If I think it's something that the group it would help the group to clarify, then I will send you, I'll put it on the group as well. Okay, all right. So good luck, and I will see you tomorrow at 5, I think, I'm not sure. All right, off you go, guys. Bye. Have a nice afternoon.
Bye.
Bye.